Hey everyone, it's Dr. Nastel, here to talk a little bit more specifically about this research project, which I have to say I'm super excited about. Many of my students begin right in the place where you are, where they're not really sure what this is going to be about, and they might be feeling frustrated that it has to be within rhetoric and composition or writing studies. But by the end of the process, overwhelmingly, my students are really enthusiastic about the work that they're doing because you're being invited to critically examine something you've been involved in for years, if not decades, in the education system. So I like to think about research as um, like a way to make a positive change in my community. And if we think about research as like serving that purpose as being something active, then I think we can get a lot out of it. So the requirements for our class are coming from this undergraduate research journal in writing studies called Queen City Writers. The purpose of that is that you can, if you want, continue to work with me once your project is done and we can submit it for publication. And in fact, one student from the spring has already had an article accepted for publication in the journal. So I'm so excited about it. Um, so what we need to keep in mind is that we're exploring questions and problems related to writing studies. Projects that experiment with form, voice, style, and delivery are welcome. So you have a chance to be a little bit creative as you're doing the critical analysis I'm asking for. And as we go down here, there's more information about what this analytical project looks like. So it's not argumentative, it's not persuasive, it's not a research report. I'm not asking you to say, to choose a side on something like which is better, placement test or no placement test for composition, or what number of, or what percentage of students place into developmental classes nationwide or in community colleges or in Illinois. That would be a report, and it's really important, and that would provide excellent background information for you. But a more analytical kind of question or project would look at what are the effects of placement testing on women or on students in suburban Cook County. So like what are the effects? How can placement practices improve to better serve diverse populations of students? Why do people use placement tests? All those kinds of questions where we're looking at the implications, kind of the different reasons. Those are better questions because they allow us to think more deeply about the topic. Your goal in this project is to examine a range of answers to your question and to help your readers understand, so what? Why is this important? Why should we care about these kinds of things? And so those like broader, deeper whys and hows kinds of questions allow us to do that work much better. So you're going to come up with a deep research question. And later in this PDF, there are some examples. And Bill has provided really excellent resources on developing those questions. So maybe you start with something like, how can minority students' graduation rates improve? That's a really big question. So you might make it more specific. How can English composition classes help minority students' graduation rates improve? So I've kind of, bolded the different kinds of information we can add to our question to make it more specific so we can find better resources. So it could be English composition classes, advisors, rates at minority serving institutions, predominantly white institutions. We could look at programs, we could look at mentoring, we could look at community colleges, or we can keep that big broad question and then have different answers in those different areas. So if our big broad question is how can minority students' graduation rates improve, maybe we're finding answers from different sources about one way is through English composition classes, like the Critical Hip Hop Literacy Project. One way is by working with advisors. Another way is through mentorship programs. So I hope you can see how starting with the topic you're interested in, like how successful are minority students at undergraduate institutions nationwide? Big, broad topic. We can flip that into a question. Well, we know that the graduation rates are not great at some schools, and there has to be ways to help those improve. So then we can start looking at how can they improve, and then we can find here are a couple of different things that seem to keep popping up in the different kinds of scholarship we're finding. And for now, we would just take notes as we've been doing all semester and think about the rhetorical situation, think about the ideas that stand out to us, use those double entry journals for note taking, and start thinking about the themes that emerge and what we think about it. What are the implications? Who is being left out of the conversation? What gaps exist? If this happens, what do you think would happen in the future? So that's where I would begin in thinking about this project. What is a question or problem related to writing studies? What is something that you want to learn about? And then we develop our questions from there.